Hello, I'm Roelof Rossouw, and I was born in Benoni, the old Transvaal, which is now Gauteng. And my parents took me to every air show that there was, and I still remember that when the mirages came at the end, I would hide between the cars because of the sound. I was very sensitive to loud noises, but aircraft and flight was my first passion at a very early age of 4, and I wanted to become a pilot. It was just my dream, and I started drawing aircraft. I knew them all, the Mirages, the Buccaneers, and those aircraft at that time, and we didn't stay that far from the international airport. Then it was comics, Sunday newspaper, and the daily comic strips like Cisco Kid. Flash Gordon and Tarzan really impressed me, and I started copying them and drawing and coloring in. So I made my own comics instead of doing my homework, studying my lessons. I hated homework. I can say that I was quite a dreamer and had an imagination and made up stories as a child. There was no television then. I lived in my own world, and I would create and draw. I started painting in oils at the age of 14. Subject matter being mostly landscapes and portraits. I discovered the art of Everett Raymond Kingslow of New York, and I just thought, this is fantastic. I want to do portraits one day. At the age of 16, my family and I, we moved to Kathu in the Northern Cape, and there being no English schools, I was sent to Kimberley Boys High and to Bishop's Hostel. And when I was 17, I had a very good art teacher, Miss Bev Shand. She's in Cape Town now, and we were only 4 in the class. Bev organized an art tour, raised funds, and here I was off at the age of 17 to Europe for 4 weeks. Saw about 8 different countries, and I fell in love with Europe and with travel. After school, I went to the army for 2 years. I wanted to become an officer, and I was so disappointed when I failed that very grueling sort of physical tests and everything, and I was very disappointed. And then things just changed for me. My instructor went to the commandant, the second in charge of artillery school, and he told him that I was an artist and had a great talent, and he took me in, he bought me art materials. I sat in his office doing all sorts of drawings for the regiment and even oil paintings for the mess. My talent afforded me many privileges in the army. Then after the army, there was 3 years of full-time study in Johannesburg, where I got my national diploma in art and design, graphic design. There was a lot of discipline. The lecturers were very strict, and if your project wasn't up to scratch, you would have to do it over again. And I remember one project I had to do over 3 or 4 times, an airbrush project. So we did airbrushing, we did figure drawing. After college, I got a job at Invictus, the Medical University of Southern Africa, as an illustrator, medical illustrator and graphic artist. A very comfortable job, not well paid, but it was my first job. I was there for 8 years. And while I was at Medunsa, I got to know the Artist magazine, because that arrived every month. I would devour it, and I would make copies and even photograph, professional photographs, slides of the beautiful paintings of Ken Howard and Bernard Dunstan. And that's what really inspired me to paint full time. I thought, these guys are so loose, and how do they do it? I was so tight for many years. The artists that inspire me are Van Gogh, Monet, Sorolla, Pirniev, Hugo Naudier, Gregoire, Adrian Bosov, Wolf Kahn, Richard Smith, Joseph Sala of Spain. After resigning from Medunsa in April 1990, I worked from home as a freelance artist with some help from my younger brother Leon. With his talent for marketing, he got me quite a few large commissions. And during this time, I continued to paint in oil, mainly scenes of the Cape. At the end of 1991 and the year following that, it was a most difficult time in my life, as my youngest brother Louis had lost his life in the truck he was driving. He was an artist with great talent too. I also reached a low in my career as nothing seemed to work. I was really down and out, and good galleries were not interested in my paintings. It simply wasn't good enough, and my work was still very tight. But my big break came early in 1992 when I started working for a gallery in Pretoria East. There, for the first time, I could paint every day, and that was the secret of my success. There's no other way that you are going to develop and grow if you don't make time or a place to paint, even if it's just an hour every day. And by the end of '94, my painting had improved to the extent that a top gallery in Johannesburg exhibited my work. Very soon, top collectors and high-ranking businessmen were buying my paintings. And since early '95, I was able to work from my studio at home without the need for any other source of income. Since the mid-1980s, I had tried to relocate to the Cape so that I could be closer to my main inspiration, that which I loved to paint, my passion. I loved the vineyards and the mountains and the harbors and the street scenes and Cape Dutch architecture. The road to the Cape, however, was closed until June 2001, when my parents and I moved to Robertson in the beautiful Breda River Valley. I longed for the peace and quiet of an old countryside town and a large old house with plenty of character. We converted the old garage into a studio with views of the fruit and nut trees. This is the setup that I have here in my studio. A large window that goes really high. That extra top windows there, that extra light is very important. If it's possible to have a window that's higher than normal, I can control the light with the blind. All the glare outside if the sun is too bright, because you don't want the glare to be too much when you're working from the computer. The monitor is eye level. These are the paints that I use. I find that this is the best. This Art Prism, Grumbacher, Winton, the Louvre, and Georgian. And then brushes. I buy my brushes from Eve in Johannesburg, Corlet Drive. These full bits. And here I have my brushes and knives. I usually work with only 2 knives that I find the best. This is a very handy knife. You can see it's already it's worn to a sharper point. This is good to scrape off unwanted paint. And this one that's got the rounded tip is good for, say, for trees and mountains. And when I'm finished at night, I put the leftover paint in. Each color gets a little photographic little bottle that seals, and I can leave that overnight until the next day so that you don't waste too much paint. And I work on a piece of glass. Here I got a very useful container that I bought when I was in America painting there. Obviously you put a mineral terps in here, and the brush just really stays pretty clean, relatively clean most of the time. And I use toilet paper, which is really nice and easy to use. So you've got the toilet paper here, you've got paint, you can quickly clean your knives and carry on with the next color, you see? And even here with your brushes. This other little tin, just an ordinary coffee tin. When you've got a lot of paint that you want to get rid of on your brush, you would rinse it off in here, in this one. Shake off most of the paint, and the rest, to really clean. If you really want a clean brush to go onto another color, you shake the rest off. You clean in this container, which has the holes, allowing most of the residue to drop through, thus keeping your terps as clean as possible. Over here, I have a mixture, 50% mineral terps, 50% raw linseed oil. I had this easel made by a neighbor across the road for 500 Rand about 10, 11 years ago. It's a sturdy easel. You need something that, you can see this, it's got a wide base that you really need to be able to, once you've got the canvas on the easel, you clamp it down. Okay, tighten it. And then of course you can lift it, and you've got these holes in here for the different level or height that you want. And then of course it really needs to be able to take that pressure and not rock back and forth. You can see it's pretty sturdy. Very important to have a good, sturdy, solid easel. Then I've got a light here that I designed, and my father made this light for me, which is a backup when it's dark outside, cloudy, rain clouds and maybe raining. There's 3 cool white energy savers equivalent to 100 watt, and then 2 daylight bulbs, which gives a fantastic backup light for when it's rainy, like today is rainy outside. And you can see it's very natural lighting, very good. I don't believe in painting at night, although this will work, but I never paint at night. Right, we have our palette here, and these are the 9 colors plus white that I use. Titanium white, a long strip there, because you mostly use white. Then your Viridian green or Hooker's green, ultramarine blue, Payne's grey, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, quinacridone orange or burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow hue, and lemon yellow hue. I would say the most important highlight in my career, most important thing that happened, was the time that my paintings appeared in the Hollywood movie Invictus, directed by Clint Eastwood. So early in 2009, an agency, a film agency, went into the Cape Gallery. I had just had an exhibition there. They chose 3 Cape landscape paintings for the movie. They hired paintings, went up to Pretoria, in the Union Buildings, and when Clint Eastwood got onto the set, and of course seeing these paintings for a few days on the walls there, he liked them so much that he decided to buy 2 of those paintings for his personal collection. That's what the gallery told me. It was all hush-hush. And so only 1 painting came back. The other 2 obviously were sold. And that was a real compliment, because not only were my paintings in this movie, but that Clint Eastwood himself had taken 2 of them back with him. That's a great compliment, and I'm very excited about that. Yeah. Well, that's it. Hope it wasn't too boring for you. I try to make it interesting. That was just a bit of an introduction to tell you about my life and how things worked out. Of course, there's a lot more to it, but there's not enough time. So I really hope that this movie would be informative and helpful and interesting. And I do plan to make quite a few movies in the future, which I hope you will buy and enjoy. So thank you.